Smashing Machine, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And you know, this is a really cool move by The Rock that I hope people don't miss, because we as a community have been very good to The Rock, and we truly have. Now, Rock's a cool guy. Everyone's going to welcome him, right? It wouldn't matter if it was cricket or polo or football. The Rock is going to have a seat at the table. I get that. But all the same, we gave him one. And all the same, we gave him a really big one. Like, I've seen The Rock go to football games and take him in. I saw him one time, he's even on the field. And hey, if you smell what The Rock is good, I think it was before National Anthem. And so that's a good involvement. I admit that. But we've involved him more. I mean, we're his market. We're his people. We are his community. We had him out to MSG and let him put a belt. I mean, right at the BMF, we brought him onto stage and showed him at the weigh-ins and gave him a platform. As I'm saying this aloud, I am catching myself and realizing everybody else would have done that for him too. But we did do it. And the push and pull between fighters and wrestlers is only one way. Like, we love the wrestlers. Not only the fellow athletes love them and would like to go and do some of that, but you, the fans. There was a time when we thought, and everybody thought this, Dana White included, we thought we're going to have to fight for our share, which means MMA is in one category, wrestling fans are in another category, boxing fans are in yet a third category. Now, boxing and wrestling fans will still to this day tell you that's true, but MMA fans will not. We learned we weren't ready for this. It's not what we predicted. Our fans like them all. Our fans are MMA fans, the one that buy the tickets, that watch the show, that follow sport, that go to the websites, that come watch something like this on YouTube. We'll also watch WrestleMania, and they'll also watch Fury versus Usyk. And it's not necessarily the other way. Like, the hardcore fan that would go live and watch Fury versus Usyk is not guaranteed to watch WrestleMania and or watch us. Now, I'm sharing that because when our community did something for The Rock, which was just to embrace him. That's it. Generally, somebody wouldn't do back for us. We could name them. We could name how many celebrities, and it could be actors, it could be singers, performers of some degree, people in that elitist club who had all the blessings in life, came and got the treatment from us, right? And by I just mean Dana. That Dana rolled out the red carpet and made sure their night was extraordinary. Made sure they had a great time, but the people that they brought were given this superstar rub. And we don't generally get that back. I'm trying to think right now. In fact, I got 5 stars on my head and none of them paid it back. But I'm trying to think if any of them paid it back. And what The Rock is doing for our community, and specifically somebody like Mark Kerr, right? Because the Mark Kerrs and the Mark Colemans and the Dan Severns and the Don Fries, the Hoist Gracies, the Oleg Tektarovs, the Tank Abbotts, right? They're in a different category. The Ken Shamrock, they're in a different category. Art Jemerson, rest his soul, as of 1 month ago. Mr. One Glove. But it's a different category. And it's a category that without them, we're not here. I mean, period. They set the table. They paved the way. And for Mark Kerr, I apologize, for Dwayne The Rock Johnson to want to pay tribute to our community, entertain you guys, serve the sport, tell the history, an accurate depiction, and for him to choose to do it on Mark Kerr. I'm sure we could get somebody to do that, give them the rights, give them footage that we've got, give them access to do it on Conor McGregor. I'm sure we could get Hollywood's 5 biggest producers and directors to do that right now. This is very different. And that's where I want you to just have an appreciation for The Rock. I mean, don't be afraid if you see him to just say, thanks. Because Mark Kerr, to many of us, while being a star and a Hall of Famer, and he paved the way, the one thing about him that is vastly different from today's stars is Mark's a regular guy. He has a regular life. He was a collegiate student athlete. He had goals in academia, he had goals in sport. He found a way to bring them together. It's a major success. If you can come through that, with some kind of accolade in sport and a diploma for your academia, great job. You're rare. I mean, the Mark Kerr story could have stopped right there and you go, successful guy. Now, he happened to make it to the highest levels of his field, which was the NCAA championship. You want a fun fact? Who did Mark Kerr beat for the NCAA title? By a score of 9-2. Clue? His opponent was from Oklahoma State. Clue? His name is Randy Couture. So, Mark then had world and Olympic aspirations, and boy, he was something. In fact, he even made a world team. He was in a hunt for a couple of Olympic teams. Mark Kerr is one of the guys that Kurt Angle had to get through in 96. You hear about Kurt and his gold medal? Just to get there. Mark Coleman was in the bracket. Mark Kerr was in the bracket. The bracket that Kurt Angle won. I think that you might find that interesting. You've seen interviews where Kurt Angle has said, I thought about fighting in the UFC. And some of you go, is he promoting? Is he working? Well, I wasn't in those meetings, but it probably does surprise you if you didn't know that Kurt Angle had to get over on Coleman and Kerr. It probably surprised you that Coleman and Kerr were in the same bracket and they could have ran into each other. Might interest you that Mark Coleman and Kerr have gone head to head many times. Might surprise you that Kerr and Couture. And I share that because when I tell you he's a regular guy, he's a regular guy. Mark Kerr wasn't there when there was a bunch of cameras. He wasn't there when there was any money. That's an exaggeration. He was paid every single time. But I remember getting a story, and it was on Mark Kerr as 100% true. Confirmed it right through Mark Kerr, 100% true. But I just remember being green with envy. I mean, I was so jealous. I wanted this to happen to me so badly. But Mark Kerr had gone over, and it was a tournament. He had to get through a couple of guys in one night, but he went over to Brazil. And this isn't the time. There's no gloves, right? No gloves represents a number of things. No gloves represents an era. It's like when you say BC, AD, it represents an era. When you don't have gloves, it's because you don't have a commission. So if you don't have gloves, you don't have a commission, you don't have rules, you don't have sanction, your money's not guaranteed, the weigh-ins don't count, the rules aren't going to be applied. I mean, that's what I'm sharing for you. When you say no gloves, that's what you're talking about. So he goes to Brazil, right, a foreign country. He's got no money. He's at home. He's got this girl he's trying to impress. I mean, he's like everybody else. He wanted a relationship and a family and see if he could get a house and a car, maybe get a vacation every so often, right? Every few years, just a regular guy. Save up for his daughter's wedding and her college. I mean, right, he's just a regular guy. Gets on a plane and goes to Brazil. He's got to go into a tournament with no gloves. So as vicious and brutal as it possibly gets, he won. And there's a rule about bringing money back, and there's ways that you do it. There's a process. And people are scared to do it. And it's not for the tax implications like people think. When you don't ever have money and you have it for your first time, you don't want to part with that. You don't want somebody else to hold it. You want to hold that money, and they paid him in cash. And Mark Kerr had a boot on, much like the beautiful Tecovas that I'm wearing right here. Go to tecovas.com and use promo code. No, I'm just playing with you. He had $15,000 in his boot when he came back. He didn't know where to put the money, put it right in his boot so that he could feel it. And I just know what that's like. First time I had a check from the UFC, I remember, and it was in my pocket, and I, about every 20 minutes, would take my wallet out and then to make sure it didn't fall out. Now, the check would have had to fallen through a hole that does not exist in my wallet, at which point it would be in my pocket. So for it to fall, it would then have to fall through a mysterious non-existing hole in my pocket to ever be lost. And I still checked it every 15. It was one of those things. So Mark Kerr puts 15 grand in a boot to get home, needed that money. And I offer you that. 15 grand's a whole bunch, but understand what he did. Understand the men that he fought, the training camps that he went through, the risks that he took, the flights that he went on, the potential hospital stays and visits that would have come to him. I mean, understand what he did. And I love that story because it really does speak to Mark was a regular guy. He was a star to us, and we loved him. We loved looking at him. And we love when he come through the camera, he had that dark hair. He's a real handsome guy, right? Kind of that dark hair was longer, and he had those traps that you could only dream of. And Mark Kerr, man, he was the most well-rounded guy in the world because we knew about his wrestling accolades. But then it was like his second or third fight. But in that fight, It might have been his very first. He threw a leg kick. Threw what's called a 10. It's a power leg kick, which means his back leg. So he took his back leg. He made contact purposely with the guy in front of him. That's all that a kick is. But at that time, it was like the most amazing thing. They wrote an article on him. They wrote an article on Mark Kerr because he threw that kick, talking about how well-rounded he was. There was a similar thing. Randy Couture rolled to an armbar on Kevin Randleman. Did not get it. But he rolled to it. And people went crazy about how well-rounded he was. It was a different time. And frankly, he was. I remember when Randy did that armbar too, going, wow, where did he learn that thing? So now we've got the smashing machine. It's under production. It's on its way. It's just a cool thing. And it is a massive way for The Rock to give back to our community. He's not guaranteed to make money on this. This is an uphill battle, right? It's an uphill battle anytime you do a depiction on sports figures from the past. Sports are one of these things that's got to be right now and in the future. So it's a risk. Which also adds to the fact of why we should appreciate that The Rock's doing this. And what an honor if you're Mark Kerr. Someone who had a seat at the table, somebody that helped to form everything that we got, but you don't get the recognition. Sure, they could put you in a Hall of Fame, they could tell you good job behind your back, but it's different, man. The camera was there or it wasn't. The money was there or it wasn't. It's a very cool thing. Some pictures are coming out. I cannot wait to see this movie.